Hi everyone, good morning, and my name is Samuel Adeniji. In this video, I am going to be demonstrating how to use AWS to integrate a web app, or I'm going to be integrating a web app with AWS using the S3 feature. That's the Amazon S3 feature. So what I'm going to be doing is explaining how to create or use a static website, upload a file to a static website, and you see if whether what we upload on the static website is going to be on our S3 bucket in AWS. That's Amazon AWS S3 bucket. So first we have to have a static website. Secondly, we need to have an AWS account or be a user with AWS. Then move to the next thing. So next, I'm going to be sharing my screen right now to explain everything that I'm about to do. So from my screen here, I'm going to be showing my screen. So here it is what I have. So what I want to do is integrate my web app with my cloud storage. That's the S3. And these are the steps I'm going to be following. I'm going to be cloning a web app repository from GitHub. So there is a ready-made link or GitHub link that has the web application already, so that we don't spend all the time designing the static websites. So then I am going to clone the app into my own repository, into my own VS Code, into my own local computer. Next, I'm going to create an S3 bucket in AWS to store the resumes. So the goal is to create like a job website that stores resumes. The third step is to create an IAM user and create the access key and security key. In the past videos, I explained how to create IAM users and how to also create a secret. I'm going to also explain how to create a secret key and access key with it. We are going to be needing this to authenticate the web app to communicate with AWS. So this will help AWS know that yes, they are receiving information from a source on our website and they are relaying that information back to S3. And so that we can confirm that our resume or the objects or files we upload is trained in our S3 bucket immediately on our S3 bucket in AWS. So then we will edit the Python code also to include the necessary information from step one and step two. Finally, we're going to install our required packages on terminal. That's our VS Code terminal. So we'll use the pip install flask command to set up this part of our project. Finally, we'll do our test run and we'll see if everything is working as expected. So this is what the pictorial representation of what we want to do looks like. You realize that on the right side of this picture, we have everything we are doing on our AWS environment, which has to do with creating our IAM, using IAM to create a user and authorizing that user, giving the user an administrative, what they call it, access. And we're going to be using the US West region, West 2 region for this project. And not just that, there is a bucket there, and that's where we create a S3 bucket. This is everything we're doing in the AWS section. So realize that our credentials, that is our access key, and the other key, that's the secret key and the access key, is saved outside of AWS so that we can integrate it in our Python code. Then from there, we also integrate both our HTML and Python together by editing our HTML settings so that both HTML and Python, I mean, that's the content on our web application can be integrated properly with our Python file. So the major essence of the Python is to basically integrate our HTML to AWS. So Python is like the middle ground that connects the both together. I, as a cloud engineer, will be doing all of this, and I'm also going to be uploading our file into our static website using the code that we have on our Python and our HTML code. So this is what the solution architecture looks like. I'll have my important links here. The next, I'm going to be opening my VS Code. So I'm going to open my VS Code right now to show you what exactly I'm doing. Okay, my screen is shared. So I'm going to go to VS Code over here. Next. So then the next thing I want to do is um, open my terminal by creating a new terminal just to see what my terminal looks like. If I click on ls right here, let's see what we have. This is what we have here. And this is the directory. It means I'm on my user. So then, now that I have done that, the next thing I want to do is I want to use that code. Let me clear. So I want to use that code that we have to clone our GitHub. So we have to clone our GitHub file. So I have my GitHub file here, copied. So what am I going to be using? Or what command am I going to be using? We can find that command, our git clone command, in our presentation here. So coming back here, you see the first link called git clone, then the link. So what I want to do straight up is, of course, to create the command. So I'm going to press git clone, paste, paste. Oh, something is missing. Okay, enter. So with this our git clone is going to paste or is going to copy all the files from our GitHub into our local. So then we can now open the files in our VS Code. So now the files are saved under users, then Samuel. So this is going to be on our local host or local disk. If it is Samuel slash desktop, then it's going to be on our desktop. So the next thing I want to do now is to quickly look for the files here, just to see if it's now on my local. So if this doesn't work, it means that if this doesn't work, it simply means that our files was not correctly cloned. If we do not see it, it means our files was not correctly cloned. So, okay, this is loading here. This is loading here. So, okay, good. So I'm just going to check this PC. And then after doing that, okay, good. We're going to be opening our local. There, we're going to see what we're looking for. Scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Yeah, so we're here. So I've gone to look for my files from this PC. You open your local disk, then I open my user, and the user in question is Samuel, SMUE. And when I open my SAMUE file, I can find the files I just cloned here. There we find all versions. This is our app.python, that's our py file. These are the templates which consist of the index and the style.css. This has to do with decoration, like how is our web application designed rather. So now that we have seen our app.py file and templates, we want to see them or upload them on our what do you call it? VS Code. So now that we have installed or cloned our GitHub into our VS Code, we want to open a folder. So you open folder and look for the files, just like we looked for it, or we just did now. This PC, users, Samuel. The next thing I want to do is search for the file, which is the web app file, then select folder. So after doing this, the files are going to show. Do you trust the authors? Yes, I trust the authors. Then I can click on the templates to have my files. This is the HTML file and this is CSS. Then finally is the Python file. Having this understanding now, showing this, if I want to open the CSS, the Python file, I can open it here. It shows here. If I want to open the HTML file, I can open to the side or somewhere else. So let me close. Let me see, open it separately here. So I can open it on the side or open it together. It all depends on how I want it. So this is it for this. So the next thing we want to do is, oh, okay, okay, this is done. Is to create our S3 buckets. According to our step-by-step guide, we have our S3, we have our step one done. Next step is to create an S3 bucket in AWS to store our resumes or our objects. So I want to go to my browser where I have my AWS account logged in. So I'm going to go to S3, click on S3, create a bucket over here. So I'm going to create a bucket for web app farming. So I'm going to do S3 just to complement it. So I don't have an existing bucket, so I cannot choose. So I'm going to enable ACLS. And this time around, since the bucket is going to have objects inside, so I'm going to, the object writer remains the object writer, no. So we can allow, yes, good, others. So on the bucket, block all public access. Mm, okay, we can enable bucket versioning. In this case, we do not need to allow public to access the bucket since we want it to be shown on our AWS account. So bucket key enable disable. So we have all of this done. Then not after we're done with this, we want to create our bucket. So after creating a bucket, as shown here, the next thing to do is to come here to our files and step by step to create a user in the bucket. So coming here, we're going to our AWS tools here, sorry, and create users in our bucket. So I'll go to Amazon S3. Um, S3. Hmm, I'm going to create the users. Good. I'm going to create users on that our IAM. So we have existing users here. I'm going to delete all these existing users in our IAM since for the purpose of this video, we want to create a user. So I just deleted all of the users here. So I want to create a user. Um, Greg, Greg web app. So I'm going to provide user access to the console. So and I want to create an IAM user here. The user will be able to create his own custom password. We can call the password hyper 123 @ So this is the password I'm using. for the purpose of this video, I want to react. Users must create a password at next sign in. We don't want them to create a new password. We just want them to use this fixed password. So now that we have a user and in the username, so the user will have full access authorization. So we just created a user. So are we adding the user to a group? Never. So we are attaching policies direct to the user. So let's attach policies. So we're going to give the user administrator access as explained right there. So I'm going to click on next. And now the user has administrator access. So then I will create this user. So finally, the user has been created, and these are the credentials for the user. So I'm going to copy these credentials into my notepad for the purpose of this training. So let me come back here and use these credentials I have here. I'll paste them here. This is the user for the user name. Then I'm going to copy the password for the user iPad. So now that we have the username and the password, this is the sign-in URL for the user. I'm going to copy that too and paste it. User login. So now that we're done with this part, what exactly is the next step in this tutorial? I'm going to also I'm also going to create an access key and secret key to authenticate the web app so that the web app can communicate with AWS. So this next stage, the goal is to come to AWS account to create access and secret key that we are going to be needing for this to work. So yeah, so moving forward, I want to create my access keys. So I have to first go to users and go and look for the user under our IAM, and we have our user Greg. So the user I created was for Greg web app. So that's the user. So over here we have create access key. So I'm going to create the access key here. And what is the use case for our access key? Command line interface, no. Plan to use this access key to enable application code in a local development environment. Yes, this is um what do you call it? This guy here, our VS Code. So we want to use our access key within our VS Code, and we want to use it, put it in our Python code. So I'm going to click local, but application running on an AWS compute service, no. Third-party service, no. We have the application working on our local code, which is our VS Code. Then I understand the above recommendations. So then I'm going to click on next. Is it value tag? Not exactly. I don't have a value tag, and this is optional anyway. So we create the access key. And here we are. We have the access key and we have the secret key here. So for the sake of this, I'm going to copy the access key, then save it. No, I'm going to save our access key here. Access key. Oh, sorry. Access key. That's one. Then coming back here, I'm going to copy our secret key here. I'm also going to copy secret key. So one more thing I'm going to need, I'm going to need the user, the name of the user that has access to the access key. I'm going to be coming back here and copy the user, Greg Web App. So the user is Greg Web App. So now let's look for our VS Code to see our code. So now this is our Python, our Python code. And looking carefully, this is our S3 configuration, and this is initialize the S3 client. This is the route. So these are the contents of our what do you call it, our code. So now over here you see add your AWS access key. So I'm going to copy the bucket. Okay, we have the bucket name here. We have the secret key here, and we have the access key here inside this parenthesis up. So we're going to be inserting them here. So now let me quickly copy my access key first. So this is my access key, carefully copied into C. Then I'm going to paste it into the parenthesis here. So now the next is my secret key. I'm going to be copying it carefully. So then I'm going to be pasting it inside the parenthesis here. The next thing I want to copy is the bucket name. So let me quickly go look for my bucket name. So I'll go to my buckets, S3. Then I'm going to click on S3. So this is the name of the buckets. I'm going to copy our bucket name here. So I am going to paste it in our VS Code. That's our Python file, so that we can integrate Python properly with AWS. Now that we have saved this, and we have this, I'm going to save by clicking on this, or by pressing Ctrl S, or by coming to File, then Save. So now that I have this all done, what exactly is the next step? Yeah, so the next thing is to go to our static website or by running our VS Code. So we have our VS Code here. I'm going to clear from what we have here. Let me quickly close this. So now, let me find this guy. So I'm going to terminal, new terminal. So what I want to do here is to run our existing Python code now that we have our access key, secret key, and the bucket name. So I'm going to run here by clicking run without debugging. So yes. So if you have run it before, it would start or initiate another instance. So now these are our addresses where we can access our website. So I'm going to use the first link. I'll just click on follow link. It opens on my browser. Then this is what we have. So now this is our static website, and we have added our AWS access key, the user access key and secret key. But before we do that, first, let me try something. Let me first comment on our access key, secret key, and bucket name. So then save here and see what's going to happen. Let me refresh the website here. So it's going to say error. This is because our connection points, our keys for connection is empty, is lost. So let me come back here, which is our okay, my share screen is still on. Let me come back here, which is our VS Code, then remove the comments. So the code can be active. Then back to our browser. No, let me save here. Then back to our browser. Then refresh the page. Our static website should come back on. Let me run it again. So run without debugging. So it's on now. Then the next thing is copy this or follow link. Our website is back. So that is what we are able to prove. Secondly, I'm going to upload a resume by choosing a file since we want to upload resume. So this is one sample of the resume. Then I'm going to click upload. So now when I click upload, oh, what do we have? We have an error occurred. It says that our user put object on resource, web app, this is the user, is not authorized to perform this action because public access controllers are blocked by the public. So where can what problem can we be experiencing here? This means that our bucket is left on blocked out of public. I mean, we blocked these buckets from public users to access it. So I'm going to go back to my buckets, click on buckets, then look down and click on the bucket here. This is the name of the bucket, then permissions. So then it says that block public access. So public access is blocked. So I'm going to try to edit the permissions here from block public um, access, not bucket policy, permissions. Then I'm going to edit here. Then I'm going to untick our block public access. I'm going to save the changes. So when I try to do this, I'm going to confirm that I'm taking this action. And now I'm going to come back to our browser to check again what we're trying to achieve. So come back here, then I'm going to upload. So now I'm going to choose the resume, then upload. So this time, do we have the, what they call it, error code? No. This means that there is a chance that our resume is on our AWS bucket. So coming back to the bucket, let me click on buckets. Let me open the name of the bucket. Is our AWS file saved here yet? Let me refresh to see if our file is here. Perfect. Perfect. Our AWS file has been uploaded instantly. So we have been able to test this process. So one more thing I'm going to do. Okay, well, now that we understand this, we're doing I'm going to do a little bit of a recap. So we have been able to clone our repository. We have been able to create our S3 buckets on AWS. We've created an IAM user and we've created the access and secret key. Not just that, we also were able to authenticate the web app. So the next thing is we want to, no, we've also been able to, next thing is to look at for our Python code. So let me, a second. So now that we have all our steps from step 1 to step 3 done, so the next thing, or 4 done, the next thing we want to do is to do our pip install. So we are going to go to our page where we have our presentation to go for the pip install link. That's pip install Flask Boto 3. So the main purpose of Boto 3 is that Boto 3 is an AWS SDK. That's they call it software development kits for Python. So it helps you to access, as a developer, helps you to access a number of libraries. So what we want to do is we want to install SDK for Flask. So now let's go back to our VS Code. Then we paste, okay, our link, or we type our command. That's pip install Flask Boto 3. So let me type pip install Flask Boto 3. So then our installation is going to go on and complete. Now, what this has done is, before, when I run our terminal, it will run, I have to copy the IP. But this time around, by the time I try to run the terminal, let me close our existing browsers where this thing is run. So let me now click on run without debugging. So this time around, our browser opens automatically. So this means that we don't have to copy IP. It takes us directly to our browser. Another way we can access this is go to local hosts, then 5,000. We still have access to our static websites. So we've been able to check, we've been able to cross-check, we've been able to confirm that our resume is on our S3 buckets over here after uploading it online. So this is a pretty interesting project process that explains how to really integrate our web app with our cloud storage. That's the Amazon S3. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you learned one thing or the other. So in the process of setting up some of this, this presentation in my previous practice, I was able to experience a number of challenges. Some of the challenges has to do with Python commands not working simply because we don't have Python installed on Microsoft on this device. So we have Python installed. That was the solution we got where we were trying to run this setup. The second challenge we're trying to have is the local host not opening. Then we find out what the problem was. Then again we have the GitHub that wasn't installing in the first place. This is because GitHub also wasn't installed on the computer, on the local computer. So this were some of the major challenges faced. And I would like to say that this has been a very refreshing experience learning how to install a web app with cloud storage. On this note, I will say thank you very much. See you in my next video as we talk about the next thing in this training. Thank you.